I had to see the first match because of the injuries involved, because the clip went out of Julia Hart taking that death-defying bump where she actually did defy death, because 1 inch farther back and she would have been dead. But apparently that was only the second or third injury in that match, depending on how you define injuries. It was Buddy and Brody, formerly the House of Black, now with no black, but with Julia Hart, against Sting and Darby Allin. And okay, yes, Sting wrestling on Rampage is bound to a big show, big crowd, bound to get somebody interested. I can understand that. But good God, I felt so bad for him. But then again, I'm thinking, well, I don't know whether I feel bad for him, because Sting is out there. He's 62 years old, and he's obviously being paid a large amount of money. One would imagine, knowing Tony Khan and with Sting's status in the wrestling community over the last however many years, it's 7 figures to get him to do this, and he's trying to earn the money. But instead of trying to maybe help teach the rest of these fucking lunatics anything about what they ought to be doing, he's trying to do what they're doing. And at one point, it looked like somebody needed to bring him an oxygen tank. And that's before he got his head busted open. Because by the end of this thing, he was bleeding. Darby Allin got 5 staples in the top of his head. And then Julia Hart was nearly killed. And, I mean, it's every indie nightmare match that you could ever think of. They did one that they finally got the House of Black entrance to look good. There comes Julia, and the lighting looked right, and then the 2 big guys. Okay, this looks kind of spooky. And then there is immediately Darby Allin and Sting behind them in their entrance, and they start the match on the ramp during the entrance. And get a 4-way fight on the floor and in the ring. And within 2 minutes, they're setting up the first table. And then, again, it was every nonsense indie match that you'd ever want to see, with guys just going out and doing stupid shit for no reason, but it's the biggest budget, highest payroll indie match in recorded history. And just as I'd written that, Sting goes to the top rope and gets pushed off the top rope through a table to the floor and hit his head on the second table that was sitting next to it on the way down. So that's a guess where he was bleeding from. I don't know. And then Julia Hart brings handcuffs into the ring, and it takes all of the heels forever to handcuff Sting's hands behind his back, which, by the way, is in front of the referee, because did I mention this is no disqualification? Lazy booking. And they go to the break with nothing happening except the heels are trying to handcuff Sting's hands behind his back. And none of them ever served on the police force because they couldn't do it. But when they come back from the break, now they're on the stage, back in the entranceway, 2-on-1 with Darby. And within the next 60 or 90 seconds, Darby comes off of the lighting platform and does a coffin drop onto a heel. And then they start doing spots on the stage, and then old fat tattooed up Brody guy gets a sleeper on Darby Allin, and they both fall off the stage through a table, which is where Darby Allin got the 5 staples in his head, apparently. Every second this lasted seemed like hours, because now they're at the point in every garbage indie match where they're not having a match and there's not even actually action going on. They're just setting up and moving around objects and furniture. And then Buddy comes back to the ring with a baseball bat, where Sting is handcuffed. And Buddy sets up a chair in the ring and grabs Sting and sets him down in it. And since Sting is handcuffed with his hands behind his back, he just sits in the chair without getting up and moving, because apparently now his ass is glued to the chair also. And he's sitting there daring the guy to hit him with the bat, I don't know, instead of standing up and kicking the guy with his free legs, he just, oh, hit me with a bat, I dare you. And Buddy draws back in a very grandiose and dramatic fashion so the lights can go out. And when the lights come back on, here comes the Great Muta. We know it's Muta because he's already got an entrance video where it says his name, the Great Muta. And Sting is still sitting in the chair, not moving, as Buddy turns around to look at Muta, who is in quicksand, creeping to the ring. So Muta's in quicksand, Buddy's a statue, and Sting is glued to the chair. And Buddy, when faced with Muta getting in the ring to face him, drops the bat. And then steps sideways so Muta can stare at Sting. And then more nothing happens. And then Muta turns to Buddy, who now apparently wishes that he still had the bat that he just put down. And he tries to kick Muta, and Muta gives him a leg screw, leg lace, whatever they call it these days. And then hits him with the mist, and he backs up into Julia and wipes Julia off the apron of the ring, and she misses but attempts to go through the third table in this match.
Which was clearly pre-cut.
Well, but I don't know that because I don't know what... You don't pre-cut tables. That's what I don't know.
You saw her. She barely touched the thing. It broke in half.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out because she barely touched it, but it didn't break in half. Her ass, shaped like her ass that hit the table, broke out. I've never seen a table break like that before. But you don't pre-cut the tables. But here's something else I noticed. I don't think they're taking that fucking plastic or metal rim off of them either. Which, the thing is, you don't pre-cut a table because if you land in the middle of the table, that your weight landing in the middle of an 8-foot table is what breaks the table, and the table breaking without being cut is also what absorbs some, or is supposed to absorb some of the fall, so you don't just go plummet straight through it to the floor. It breaks the fall a little bit. But in this case, she missed the table, falling on it in the middle, so it didn't break in half to break her fall, but a big chunk of it came out where her ass hit and the back of her head hit the floor. So I don't know how the fuck that happened. But also there's a metal ring around a lot of these modern tables, and if you don't take that off before you land on the table, when the table breaks, the rim just flops up everywhere and can cut you open or do who knows what. Nevertheless, this all in... Oh, and then Sting broke the handcuffs and hit the Scorpion Death Drop on fucking Buddy. Thanks for coming, Buddy. 1, 2, 3. This could have been the worst match ever on AEW television. And imagine what kind of territory that takes in. But this was just... It's like, oh my God, we've got a big crowd, so we have to make our match as rotten and phony looking and stupid as possible and do everything that everybody else does in every other fucking match except Sting. Sting's in it. Otherwise, it looked like every other fucking match that every other fucking indie guy has. I would have fined everybody involved, but I'm sure Tony probably set half this thing up. What were your thoughts?
I mean, the match was a disaster. It's not my style of wrestling if everything worked and people didn't get hurt. But at one point, they just went from like one camera cut to another, and there's Darby, he's down and out. Here's another person, he's down and out. And then, of course, the lights go out. What are you going to do? I'm going to stop doing anything I was going to do and stand here and freeze for the Great Muta to come out and show you how to do the mist, by the way.
Yeah, he did nail the mist.
Yeah. He showed him how to do the mist, and then Julia Hart missed the table. How about that? The Julia Hart thing is so problematic because when I first saw it, you felt bad for her. You knew she got at least her bell rung there, just you had to have.
Yeah.
But when you talked about it, I never thought about it the way I do now until you laid it out about how close she was to really, if the back of her head, just a few inches up, she's done.
Yeah.
More than likely. And that's where it becomes scary, and that's where something has to change, but nothing will change until someone gets seriously hurt, and then it'll eventually change back to what it was when people get tired.
What's serious? How many more surgeries do they need? Has Kyle O'Reilly had his neck fused, is what we're hearing? Nobody will admit it.
It shouldn't be a rite of passage to go through a table. I guess that's the issue.
Well, if you're going to... You know what? Again, if you do it right, I would rather get slammed off the top rope through a table by somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing to turn me right than I would to take any of these fucking goofy moves from any of these fucking green bastards where I get dropped on my head and my neck broken. Because at least I'd be in control of what I've just mentioned. But the point is, why go through a table now? There was 3 in this match. It's on every show. It's lazy at this point. It makes a loud noise and something breaks, so people will react to it. And then they won't remember it 15 minutes later. But what about, you might have a table leg through your fucking spleen, you fucking moron. Again, there's an element of risk in everything, but you get people who know what the fuck they're doing, and they pick their spots to do it, and it's acceptable in some fashion. But again, with Julia Hart, and I'm not exaggerating, and anybody that thinks I am, well, you're a fucking moron. If she went back 2 inches farther, it would have snapped her fucking neck, and she'd have been dead before she hit the floor. Just go back and watch it. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. And if you do, after seeing that, you still think I don't know what I'm talking about, did I mention, fuck you? So it's not a rite of passage. It's this poor teenage girl that got in the wrestling business, I guess because she wanted to be on TV, and there's nobody there professional enough to fucking take care of her and teach her how this shit's supposed to be done. Or set an example by not doing stupid shit yourself.